All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Grace Shecker. I'm an intern with the Fit Phoenix program here at the City of Phoenix. I would like to welcome you all to our virtual speaker series, which is offered by both the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Department and the Human Services Department. Tonight we have Marion Hill with us to talk about nurturing fathers. We ask that you please stay muted, and if you have any questions, to type them in the chat, and we will get back to them promptly. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Marion.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to pull up my screen here real quick to share with everybody. Again, my name is Marion Hill, and I will be, as soon as I can get this right here, sharing some information with you with regard to nurturing fathers and a program that we have here in the city of Phoenix that we do in partnership with the Greater Phoenix Urban League, the My Brother's Keeper, which is actually out of the mayor's office, and the Geary Institute, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through. But really, I want to take care of two things today. I want to introduce you to Man Cave, which program, and inside of that program is education, information, programs, activities with regard to nurturing fathers and our need to have nurturing fathers just throughout in the family. Oops, let me go back here. I'm moving relatively quickly here because all right. So let's take a look at what the research says with regard to fathers. So we know that family involvement is a win-win situation for children and children in schools and schools as well. Children are naturally more successful in the classroom and in school when we see that fathers are present in their lives. They're more ambitious, more self-confident with their identity. They're really more self-protective and self-reliant, less likely to drop out of school, less susceptible to peer pressure. And children are less likely to get in trouble with the law when we see that they're engaged with a nurturing father. The challenges that we naturally have with regard to nurturing fathers is the fact that parent involvement normally equals mother's involvement, especially when you're dealing with kids from infant to toddler. Normally, it's perceived as it's the mom's responsibility to really take care of that child, to really nurture that child. I would argue that it's just as important for the father to be involved in that child's life, especially if you're talking about a boy. Normally, about the age of 7, 8 years old, the boy begins to look towards the father figure and the role that father figure is going to play in his life and in his development. So the assumption is that the mom is responsible for the child's learning and development. Not necessarily true, and these assumptions miss the importance of why fathers should be involved. Let's look at what the stats say with regard to father absence. So what we have children that are absent fathers, and when I say absent fathers, I'm saying either absent the biological father in the home, or the father is in the home and is not engaged or connected with the children that are in the home. There's a 269% more likely of a chance for them to be arrested for drug dealing, firearm possession, or to be involved with the juvenile criminal system. 269% increase. They're 2 times more likely to drop out of high school when the father's not engaged or absent from the home, 4 times more likely to live in poverty, 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. And that's interesting because when the father is in the home, pheromones are actually released from that father for a female in the home that makes her less promiscuous. As a matter of fact, it even delays the female menstrual cycle by up to 2 years. Why is that? Because that pheromone that is released from the father indicates that the father is the alpha male, and so therefore a female or daughter in that home does not have to go looking for anyone to play that role in her life. So really 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen with a father not in the home, 2 times more likely to suffer from obesity, more likely to face abuse and neglect, and more likely to behavioral problems. So let's look at the extent of fatherlessness when we talk about how does that look across the country. We've got an estimated 24.7 million children, or 33%, that live absent of their biological father. So looking at 72.2% of the U.S. population, Fatherlessness is actually considered the most significant family and social problem that's facing American families. Within Man Cave, what we're trying to do is we're really trying to create a hierarchy of father involvement. Whether that's father involvement in the home, whether that's father involvement in our program, we want to make sure that one, we are father aware, two, that we are father friendly, welcoming to the father, and three, that we are father inclusive. We include fathers in activities. So when really what we encourage even in the home, when we talk about the nurturing father, we talk about the nurturing mom, we want to see a home structure where one, that home is father aware. So we recognize that there's a father that is in the home and that is engaged with their children. Two, it's a father-friendly environment. So mom and dad are making decisions together. And then three, it's father inclusive. So it's really mom and dad plus the children. It's all included in terms of the decision-making process. It's mom and dad together making decisions on behalf of that family. That's the way that we want to be in our program, Man Cave. That's the way that we want to see the homes for which we have fathers participating on our program looking. Why is that? Because we recognize that based upon science, the impact of the father is huge. The father is really critical to the social emotional development of the child, the intellectual development. When you look at the physical development, responsibility, independence, competence, all of these things come about as the father really being engaged in the home and engaged with the child. Caregiving, being protective, advising, school, and homework. And a lot of it is really driven off of the father's need, not only his need, but the way that he goes about nurturing his children, whether it be a daughter or a son. That nurturing is different from the mom. Maternal and paternal nurturance is different, but together it comes together to make the whole child. And when one is missing, the child, whether it be a female or a male, is always going to seek out where they can find that type of nurturance from. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as I go through this. So we created Man Cave. Man Cave originally started in the education division in our Head Start program. It stands for Men All Need to Be Caring, Actively Engaged, Vested, and Encouraged. And it was simply created to emphasize and promote the value that men have on the growth and development of young children and the impact that they have within their families and a broader community. We want men to rise up and to be engaged, taking their place in the home, engaged in the community, because we recognize that when a father is engaged, when men are engaged in the home and in the community, you've seen from the stats, all of those things go down and we create and have more of a successful child. So it is a partnership that exists really between the Gearing Institute, which is really looking at male, female, really through a gender lens, how that brain develops, how the brain develops and learns differently between boys and girls, and how we should really nurture them and raise them differently in terms of that brain. Is it a male brain? Is it a female brain? Is it a bridge brain? Man Cave is the program that was originally created. Man Cave has been around for about 4 years and has been developing and we've been enhancing the program ever since it developed. Like I said, it started off with Head Start, but now it's being pushed over into a nonprofit, into the Greater Phoenix Urban League. Why? Because we recognize that there is a need to serve just more than fathers, mothers, and fathers of birth to 5 children. And so we're seeing more fathers become engaged in the program. What we like to say is if you have a child or if you have a kid or a teenager or even an adult that's all the way up to 24 years old and you're a father, we have something for you. And then finally, out of the mayor's office, My Brother's Keeper initiative that originally started in the Obama administration, but it's really all about boys specifically and making sure that we are raising boys and removing any obstacles from out of their way that would that it takes for them to be successful. So we look at some innovative programming, and this is where I want to get into a little bit of the nurturing. We've got several programs inside of our Man Cave program. This is just a picture that we took over at our Fowler with an event that we did with dads and their kids there. But one of the first things that we do and that we talk about is the importance of parenting as a team. This is really what nurturing is all about. It's about parenting as a team, and it's about understanding both the mother's impact and the father's impact. And we find that when parents understand, moms and dads understand their impact, it makes a huge difference because they can see that, look, we're really both doing the same thing in nurturing our children. We do it differently. And if there's not an understanding of the way that we do it, it can cause some problems because we do things differently between male and female, but it all goes to the benefit of the child. So I like to talk about the 8 gifts that the mom gives to the child. I like to talk about the 8 gifts that the father gives to the child. Different, but we're creating, again, a whole child. So just for example, without going into a lot of depth, because we go into depth during our man cave meetings, and we really get into the brain development. We get into why we are this way, why our mom's a certain way, why our dad's a certain way, and why does it work together? Because quite frankly, we're wired a little bit different. So if you look at moms, for example, that longer burst of time, that's the time that they spend with their children, whether they be infant, toddlers, whether they move into the youth, adolescent, teenage. Moms spend a longer burst of time. They spend more time with their kids. They spend more time talking to them. They spend more time with hands-on attachment, and that hands-on attachment is that's the affection portion of it. That's the hugging. The affection that goes along with really just mothering a child and being empathetic to that child. So it's a longer burst of time. And really, when you think about it, a mom carries a child for 9 months. She is in touch with that child. And so when the child is born, she's still in touch with that child because moms, just looking at it from a biological standpoint, have more nerve endings at the end of their fingers than men do, and they really want that touch. It's an important part of nurturing. The hands-on attachment is also moms, and spending that longer burst of time with them, know them. They what a cry means, whereas necessarily a father might not know that. The mom knows when that cry is I'm hungry, or knows when that cry is I have to go to the restroom, or knows when that cry is I'm not happy right now. It's not that a father can't do it and can't learn it. It's just that it comes naturally and instinctively to a mom. Why? Because we look at a couple of things. We look at estrogen and oxytocin. So both male and female have estrogen, testosterone, oxytocin in their system. The female has 15 to 20 times more. So when you talk about estrogen and oxytocin and the two of them combined together, that is really the hormones that promote really empathy. It really promotes feeling. It promotes words. It promotes the ability to be able to come together and um, um, to partner, to work together. Um, Oxytocin is a bonding hormone. So that's where you get the longer burst of time, the hands-on attachment. When you look at emphasizing multitasking, well, that's simple. If you look at really the way that the brain is developed in both the male and the female, they're different. Female brain has the ability to be able to multitask more so than the male brain. So that mother's impact is going to want to emphasize multitasking and teach her child multitasking. The expression of emotions and words. So that's taking those feelings, that's taking those emotions and converting those to words. Again, without getting into depth, it's really the connection and the development of the brain. So if you look at emotive, if you look at verbal centers in the brain, the ability to feel emotion, the ability to be able to speak, the verbal centers, the female brain has verbal centers on both sides of the brain, the right and the left. They have emotive centers, which is that ability to be able to feel. They have it on the right and the left. And the two of them connect. So it makes it easy for them to naturally convert emotions into words. A little bit different from the male brain that only has those emotive and only has those word centers on one side of the brain, which is the left side of the brain. The other side of the brain is really a spatial mechanical, and that plays a very important role that we'll talk about next in nurturing the child. If you're looking at direct empathy, a mom's ability to be able to feel the emotion of her child, that's the thing that she wants to teach that child. That child to have the ability as they grow up to be able to feel how a person, to be able to in a person's let's see, how do I best explain it? They want to be able to both feel and to understand an emotion that a person is going through. That is that direct empathy, that ability to be able to empathize. So, giving you an example, if you ever look at kids playing, and when they're playing, if you're looking at boys and girls playing, and let's say a little boy gets hurt. When the little boy gets hurt, normally the female response to him is to number one, go down to their level, and number two, make sure that they're okay. And nothing happens until they're okay. Whereas the male response, in terms of that direct empathy, is a little bit different. It's basically making a determination of whether or not they're hurt or whether or not they can still function. It's all about the goal. The other thing that happens with a mother's impact is relinquishing, is being able to relinquish personal independence, and that's just because the mom normally gives up their independence to make sure that child is okay. And that's an impact that a mom has on a child. Character development is done through words, and so when it comes to expressing emotions, the way that you feel, mom always says, say your words. Tell me how you're feeling through your words. The other thing is the mom always wants a child to feel better. So no matter how they're performing, it's the performance that's not important. It's the ability to be able to feel better during that importance. And that has an impact on the child. So that was really kind of just a quick view through. Normally when we're in our man cave sessions, we spend a lot more time, and we spend time with both moms and dads really talking about this. It's interesting that as really I go through this, really kind of a quick summary of it, I found that 1 in 5 or 20% of moms or females will say, this is not who I am. And they will identify more so with the father's impact. And then you'll find 20% of fathers that will identify more with that nurturing, that empathetic nurturance in terms of the mother's impact. So let's look at the impact of the father. So the father's impact is a shorter burst of contact. We don't have that much contact with our children, but when we do, it's a short burst. It's a handshake, it's a high five, it's a fist bump. It's a short burst. That means we acknowledge you, we see you, we know that you're there. Short burst of contact. That order, that pattern thinking, that ritualized action is because really that's how male brain does things. It does things in an order, in pattern thinking, in a ritualized action. And so when we teach our kids as they're growing up to do things, it's order, pattern thinking, ritualized action. That develops discipline. That really kind of rounds out the full character of that child because they do things in order. When a father teaches his son, let's say, to take an engine apart, and taking an engine apart, there's certain things that you do. If they're teaching them, let's say, a math problem, there's steps that you take. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, you come up with the answer. If the answer is not correct, then you got to go back and find which step did you make the mistake that causes the answer to be wrong so that you can correct it. So it's really order, pattern thinking, ritualized actions. Male brain has a tendency to downplay the emotion, play up the performance. So it's really not about, we don't care how you feel, it's we care how you perform. So if you look at the female side is we're going to upplay the emotion, downplay the performance. So you can see how the two of them, when you bring those two together, then we want a child that is both emotionally connected to their performance and cares about how they perform, and there's an emotion that is connected to that performance. Promoting risk-taking and independence, that's just the hormones that exist inside. Differences between a male and female. Serotonin is one of those things that females have a higher serotonin level. The higher serotonin level keeps them calm, keeps them a little bit more rational than a male brain, which has a larger cerebellum, which is about fight or flight, less in terms of serotonin. So we're going to take action first before we stop to rationalize that, whereas the female brain will want to rationalize it first before taking action. That respect for positive authority, that's definitely a role that the father plays in the home, because that father is that positive authority, should be that disciplinarian in the home, should garner and gain that respect. And so if a child has that, then they're going to respect authority that's outside of the home. This fighting against personal and group vulnerability. That's really about a child. As the child grows up and becomes a teenager, there's this group think that goes on. So a group may decide, one person may decide to do something in a group, and it may not necessarily be correct or the right thing to do, but the group think comes together and says, yeah, let's all do that, and it's still not the right thing to do. That fighting against personal and group vulnerability is just that. You should be one person that says this is not the right thing to do and step outside of that group think. So that's part of the discipline. That's part of respecting a positive authority. That's part of recognizing the consequences for your actions. Those are things that come from the father. Those are things that come out of two things: testosterone and vasopressin. Those are aggression hormones. Those are territorial hormones. Those are protective hormones. And so that's really where the father's role is in that home, is really to be really to be protective, is really to be territorial, is really that aggression nurturance, which teaches a child to not become vulnerable, but to stand on their own. And then encouraging immediate action. Um, Fathers want to see, if you say you're going to do something, then let's see what you do. So if your report card comes in, that immediate action is those grades that are on there. The grades that are on there reflect the action that you took. And a father's always going to promote that child having or encouraging immediate action. And then for the most part, dads always want their children to feel stronger. So whereas moms want them to feel better, dads want them to feel stronger. And if you put those two together, that come together from both mom and dad, you have that tendency to gain a child that's going to feel both stronger and better about themselves. So that's really just a little piece of parenting as a team, and really the father's impact. We like to spend time with mom and dad going through both of these because it generates great discussion and it generates a lot of understanding. It gets dad to understand mom a little bit better, gets mom to understand dad a little bit better, and then they can ask questions about better raising, in terms of how they can raise their kids better and understand their kids, especially if it's a boy or a girl. So inside of Man Cave, we've got what we call making connections, and so there's several pieces to that. We have what's called Responsible Fatherhood. That's our Nurturing Fathers program, where we actually spend time. It's actually about 10 weeks of time with dads over the course. It's not just 10 weeks back to back, but it's really kind of 10 weeks over time, where dads have a journal and they have the opportunity really to become citizen scientists so that they can learn about themselves, so that they can better learn about their families, so they can really understand the structure of that family, the structure of that child, the structure of their marriage, all of those things, and get to be able to examine that. And then where we have fathers that they want to go through with the mom or with the baby's mom, we have a healthy marriage program. So the marriage and parenting program, which really focuses on strengthening the couple. So we want to make sure that we give them the opportunity for the shared exploration of parenting attitudes and those skills. That's a 10-week program too that they can go through together. Again, it has a journal. We normally do it in English and Spanish, have a facilitator that goes through, and it's really a great learning experience. I've been through it both on both ends, one as a father, but also as a facilitator, and it can become quite emotional, especially when you're looking at the benefit and value, the way that you were raised as a as a boy that grows up to be a father, and the way that your father raised you, and you think about the things that you can pass on to your kids that you want to pass on, and then there's other things that you just want to forget, you want to let those go. You don't want that part moving forward because that might have been a bad experience with your own father. So we examine those both in the Nurturing Fathers program and the Marriage and Parenting program. And then we also have something that's called Father in 15. I like this because it's 15 topics, 15 minutes to become the best dad that you can be. This is something that we do online, and we send this out as an online learning experience. It comes to your phone. You can pick it up on your cell phone. You can pick it up on your laptop. You can pick it up on your computer if you have one at home. And it's really a lesson that you get in like 15 minutes with a quick video. So it's like 15 topics, 15 minutes. It basically takes your desktop, your tablet, or your smartphone, brings the classroom to you. And then on a monthly basis, we like to have a virtual call where we come together and we talk about a couple of these topics. We try to create really a transparent environment for dads to come together and really talk about issues related to really just being a dad, being a father, being a husband. Then following that, our school readiness, this is for those that have younger children. So we offer opportunities for dads to have fun with their kids. So for example, I have a what's called a father fun kit. It's a little backpack, little clear backpack, and inside of that backpack is a book that dad can read with their kids. And then there's also some cars. So there's parts to like 4 balloon powered cars. And so we give dad and kid the opportunity to be able to sit down, follow the instructions, build out these cars. There's markers in there, crayons in there, all kinds of things where after you build a car together, then the kid can go and paint the car and do whatever they want with the car. And then it's balloon powered, so you can actually power the car with the balloon. And we try to create some competition for that. I'm going to be releasing those coming up here in the near future and give fathers the opportunity to participate in some competition with that. When I talk about the competition, we offer different prizes. We offer everything up to like $500 gift cards, whatever we're doing in a particular training session, just all kinds of different things to be able to engage dad and have some fun while we're doing this. And then something new that's coming out is our slick text. Right now, I just put it's our text message marketing to engage and encourage. Right now, I just put code in there to 31996. 31996 is the actual number. That's going to go live here in the next couple of weeks at our Fatherhood Summit, and it'll be Fatherhood. So you can text Fatherhood to 31996. You'll be able to tap into the program, be able to participate in the content, the incentives, and the opportunities that we have for the different activities. We do some field days in our Head Start program where we bring the Milwaukee Brewers, and we do have partnerships with the Milwaukee Brewers, with the Diamondbacks, with the Arizona Cardinals. So we do different things. This is an example of really kind of a field day that we had with one of our Head Start programs. But we do have Father's Days out with their kids where we have tickets to football games, to baseball games, and we allow fathers give out those tickets and then give them vouchers to be able to get soda, hot dog, those kinds of things. We have gear that we get from the organization. It just becomes a fun day for us to go. I think last year we got like 200 tickets from Larry Fitzgerald from his foundation, went to a Cardinals game. We had a great time at one of the Diamondbacks games last year. So as these things come back after we've passed through this COVID-19 and we can come back together, those are some of the things that we will pursue and continue to do. This is really just a picture, really, of some of the men that came together for the outdoor event that we had with the Brewers. We've done this for the last 3 years with them. It's a great partnership. They did come to us and say, "Hey, we want to expand this." So we're going to look at expanding this event as well. But again, it's about creating that environment where dads can come together, share with one another. We do promote for them to come out with mom, bring the kids out. It's a family thing, but we also want to make sure that we focus on dads. You'll see some T-shirts there, Man Cave T-shirts that the dads have there. We've also created some for mom that we'll be releasing this year, which is something different for us. This is one of the events that we have coming up relatively soon. It's actually December 3rd and December 4th. Every year, we have a Helping Boys Thrive / Fatherhood Summit. This year, it's going to be virtual, so it won't be in person. Normally, it's at Desert Willow or it's at the Black Canyon Conference Center. Again, this will be free and it's virtual. It's 2 days. 1 day is around Helping Boys Thrive. I believe that on the 30th of November, I'll be doing a session on the differences between the way that boys and girls learn and looking at the brain development through a gender lens for both boys and girls. But we really promote this Helping Boys Thrive. We're trying to close the achievement gap so that naturally we can bring boys along, because right now, boys are about 1.5 years behind girls in brain development and reading and writing and literacy. And so we want to be able to close those gaps, and we can close those gaps by being able to teach teachers and parents strategies to be able to use to enhance the learning ability of boys. Girls, fantastic at learning. Even when a girl is at her most bored state, she can still pay attention. Remember, those verbal, those emotive, those sensorial centers are on both sides of the brain, whereas for a boy, that's not the case. I talked a little bit about or mentioned the spatial mechanical side. The spatial mechanical side that exists on the right side of a male brain is really about things moving through time and through space. And so if you look at video games, if you look at being able to solve complex math problems and to be able to do it in their head, or to be able to see it really, in the air, it's really about that spatial mechanical system that exists on the right side of the brain. A quick tip: if you want to communicate, or better communicate with a boy, or really for that matter, better communicate with a male, when you're having conversation, do an activity. So get up, walk around, throw a ball. You'll see this naturally if you're having a conversation. For guys or for ladies that are out there, you'll see this naturally if you're having a conversation with your spouse, or with your significant other, and they are the TV is on. You'll see that males have a tendency to look at the TV, flash through the remote, and sometimes females don't think they're paying attention. In essence, they are, because holding that remote, flashing through channels, is occupying the right side of the brain, so that the left side of the brain can focus a little bit more in terms of what you're saying. So these are things that we do with the Helping Boys Thrive Summit. We really try to give you strategies that create a better environment for you as a parent, and for the child. And then that following day, we deal with the Fatherhood Summit, where we're dealing with specific issues with regard to fathers. This year, we're going to be talking a little bit about the man box, and the man box is really something that has been created by society and created really through generations, in terms of speaking about the culture of men, and the culture in terms of how men should be or should act. Inside of the man box is that, for example, we tell boys, big boys don't cry, or men don't seek for direction or instruction. Those are things that is pushed throughout generation and is pushed throughout society. That's the man box, and we want to make sure that we step outside of that, so we can become better rounded men in terms of the way that we nurture our children, and in terms of the way that we treat those of the opposite sex. And so we've got that Fatherhood Summit. It's going to be fantastic. With the Man Box, we've got another guy who spent time. I don't know if any of you are familiar with 60 Days In. It's on Netflix right now, but it does come on A&E, and it's really about individuals that apply to go into prison, because they're trying to gain the experience of what it's like to be in prison. One of our presenters spent all of his life in the gang, met his wife and married his wife in the gang, had a child while he was in the gang, and he didn't really nurture and pay attention to his son during all of that time. What ended up happening is, when his son got old enough, his son is actually in jail right now for second degree murder. And so he wanted to do a better job at being able to understand his son's environment, and to communicate with his son, really kind of to build some of those bridges that weren't built when he was a father. And so he did go in, and he spent 60 days in. His story, his testimony is fascinating. One of the things that I got from him out of this is, he told me, it was easy to go in and to acclimate to the prison life, but he's been out for 2 years and he's still struggling with acclimating to being in society. So it's a great conversation from him. We've got some other speakers that'll be presenting. That's a good time. So it's Thursday and Friday. I will make sure that Parks has access to this flyer. So if you want to go in, you just go into Eventbrite and get registered. Let's see. So really, our man cave dads, this is what we want to be as man cave dads. And the reason that we push nurturing fathers and the importance of nurturing fathers, we want man cave dads that are participating to come out of being a part of man cave, saying that I'm going to love my children, I'm going to coach my children, I'm going to model for my children, I'm going to encourage other children, and I'm going to spread the message of what man cave is about. And man cave is simply about engaging families, engaging children and families, so that we make a significant difference in the lives of families and children. So that's it in a nutshell. So if there's any comments, any questions, I would be more than happy to entertain that. If not, I thank you for participating in this. I know I went relatively fast. They told me I had 45 minutes to do it. This presentation normally takes me about an hour, hour and a half, but I just wanted to cut through most of the information that's in there. If you have any information, I thought I had put my contact information in here. Maybe see if that's on the first page. But you can contact me at Marion, Marion .hill, HILL at phoenix.gov. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions for you. And then if you want more information about the things that I've gone over with regard to Man Cave, you can either go on to the City of Phoenix under Education and Head Start, or you can go over to the Greater Phoenix Urban League, and there's a whole section there on Man Cave because we do offer the services out of there. The third service that we offer that I did not mention was the economic mobility. So if you're looking for employment, if you're looking for training around employment, we do provide that. And that is a partnership really between Greater Phoenix Urban League, between City of Phoenix Education Division and Arizona at Work. All right.
Thank you, Marion. Looks like we have one question in the chat asking if there are Man Cave chapters in the LA area.
No, there's actually not Man Cave chapters in the LA area. This is something that I started out here, was really kind of a vision that I had. One of the things about the virtual reality that we're in right now is that it makes it easy to begin a chapter in the LA area, because all you have to do once we release the Fatherhood code to the 31996 is tap into that, and then you'll get all of the information, the Father in 15 on a monthly basis that you'll have. You'll be able to do the pre and the post survey, and then once we have your information and you're on our contact list, then as we have our virtual meetings, you'll be able to participate in those virtual meetings as well.
We have another question asking how many members there are.
We serve right now, starting off in Head Start, which is where we started. We have 3,500 slots. We have served as many as 1,800 over the past 2 years. We average, because we were having meetings before COVID, we were having meetings at 9 different locations, monthly meetings. And the way that the monthly meetings looked is Dad would come out for the first meeting. Dad and Mom would come out with the child. We would have dinner, we feed them, and then we break the children off, and the children go off with the teacher. They do an activity. We keep Mom and Dad there, and we go over the first topic, which is co-parenting, talking about maternal and paternal nurturance. Every other session after that, what we do is we bring dads in. Dads come in with the kids. We have an activity that dad does with the kid, and then we do messaging for the kids. What we were averaging was about 65 fathers per location at 9 locations that we would have. We would do the same topic in all 9 locations, different times of the month, in case dads couldn't make it to one spot. They could make it to another. So really, because it started off in Head Start, it was something where we had membership really kind of for the first couple of years, and then they go on to kindergarten in the school district. And now I've had school districts that are saying, hey, can we carry this now beyond and have other dads participate in Man Cave? And I'm like, look, as long as you got a kid, you're a father, we want you to participate. But yeah, we've run through, like I said, about 1,800 over the last couple of years. We still have a lot of dads that come back that want to participate, even as their kids are growing older, and we have no problem doing that. So that's where we are roughly right now. But I think in the virtual world, and with us releasing this text app, I'm excited about the opportunity in releasing the text app. And I got a text app that was big enough to take on and send out 25,000 texts a month. So I'm expecting growth beyond the state level.
All right, well, if there's no more questions, thank you so much, Marion, for joining us tonight.
No problem.
Have a great night, everybody.